Minnesota officials knew about the fraud since 2014. Let's get over into it and see what we can find out about this case.
Welcome back. 18 minutes after the hour. The FBI has now raided more than 20 businesses across Minneapolis in their investigation into alleged widespread fraud across the state. Now, a former Minnesota investigator is speaking out about the complexity of these long-standing schemes, alleging officials even attempted to cover them up.
As I look back with the benefit of 2020 hindsight, I realized that what our team saw was the early stages of a somewhat loosely organized criminal enterprise beginning to pillage Minnesota's public benefit system.
NewsNation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh joins us now with the latest. Rich, good afternoon.
Hi, Nick. You know, what's most shocking about this is not Jay Swanson's level of candor or the amount of details and facts that he can talk about. It's the account of how Minnesota officials ultimately silenced him and his team. This is a guy who was a state trooper in Minnesota for decades, and he was the head of this fraud, this agency investigating fraud within the state. Ultimately, he says they shut him down after they came up and revealed what they learned. Take a listen.
One day, we received a call from a CCAP mother who called to complain that her child care center owner had stopped paying her the monthly cash kickback they had agreed upon. Another day, a former co-owner of a center called to say that he had been cheated out of his share of the fraud proceeds. Yet another day, a fire department called asking if a child care center was still operating because there were never any children or staff at the center. I checked and found that in the last 12 months, we had paid the center approximately $1 million and that they were billing for the care of approximately 90 children at a time during 2 shifts from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week.
Swanson says looking.
So first of all, he revealed all this information, and the official was just like, nah, sweep that under there. Let's not talk about that. And then we wonder why everybody's concerned about fraud, abuse, and waste. We wonder why we paying so many taxes, and then people are concerned about where our tax money is going. This is why we are concerned. $1 million in 12-month period, and not one child was seen. Or they say they didn't see children. We don't know for a fact, but it's still crazy, y'all. Let's keep going.
Back, his team saw the early stages of loosely organized criminal enterprise starting to pillage Minnesota public benefit system, and it was a well-known in the community, but also in Somalia.
More than once, I heard an owner or employee respond when we asked where they first learned about the daycare scam. They would say they had first heard about it while in the refugee camp in Kenya. These individuals told us that they had heard you could run the scam in a number of different states, but it was easiest and you could make the most money doing it in Minnesota.
What's most chilling is that he and his team, which included veteran investigator Scott Stillman, who told us his career was destroyed after speaking up and testifying publicly in 2017, were retaliated against.
So you mean to tell me across the world, they knew that Minnesota was a walking lick? That's, if you don't know what that means, go look it up. But basically saying that they can get away if they scam them. Absolutely.
I soon had a senior DHS official in my office, angry, red-faced, and almost yelling. The senior DHS official told me to delete a number of paragraphs of the document that I had sent. I then advised this official that I believed what they were telling me to do was illegal. I can't tell you how shocked we were to come to the Department of Human Services and learn after a few years that not only was the theft of untold millions of dollars tolerated, but those who tried to stop it would be subjected to the wrath of high-ranking department officials.
Now, Swanson says their warnings were ignored. Then the department hired a consultant, ultimately to try and discredit their findings, and all of this would be shoved under the carpet. Nick?
Rich, you also interviewed his colleague, Scott Stillman, exclusively last month. Now that both have spoken out with the damning accounts, what does this mean for Minnesota officials?
Well, it establishes kind of a baseline. Here you have two very credible people, Stillman and Swanson, both lifetime investigators. They're saying that this fraud was known in Minnesota as early as 2013, 2014. They were talking about it, retaliated against. And so the implication for officials, Governor Walz, who we've reached out to and has not responded, is it's impossible for them to say they didn't know about this. In fact, when they brought this, Governor Walz's, Department of Human Services ultimately shut down this very team. Nick?
And Rich, that's a pretty big deal. Anytime you're hearing about a scam all the way back in Kenya, before you even get here, that's telling you that the tentacles definitely run deep. Rich McHugh, thank you so much.
In Kenya, they knew it. Oh, yeah. If you want to pull out this scam, the best place to go is Minnesota. Do it there. You won't get caught. You live a good life. Wow. So much more could have been done. Just think about that, y'all. So much more could have been done with the money that they stole. More actual people could have been helped. More children could have been helped. Let's go over to the AI breakdown just to find out a little bit more information about this case. Or then this investigation, better say it. So let's jump into it. So as we know, a former Minnesota fraud investigator manager testified in April 2026 that he was aware of the fraud network as early as 2014. So Swanson's unit reportedly identified loosely organized criminal enterprise pillaging benefit programs, including child care and Medicaid, on a weekly basis. Investigators encountered cases such as child care centers billing $1 million annually for 90 children that never actually attended, and provides offering cash kickbacks to the parents. Testimony suggests that when investigators tried to document these findings, high-ranking officials with anger retaliated against the whistleblowers and hired consultants to discredit them. These revelations have led to an intense scrutiny of Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith. A House Oversight Committee reports released in March 2026 alleged that while they publicly denied knowledge, they were aware of the credible fraud concerns as early as 2019, but continued payments to the suspected providers. So you're aware of the concerns, but you don't investigate and just send money anyway? I didn't know that's how we do things. So federal prosecutors estimate that the widespread fraud across 14 Medicare programs may total as much as $9 billion. In early 2026, the federal government moved to halt $243 million in Medicaid funding to Minnesota due to these oversight failures, prompting a lawsuit from the state. The FBI conducted over 20 raids in Minnesota in April as part of an ongoing investigation into the safety net program abuse. Wow. Just think, you just doing your job, doing what you're supposed to do. You're a fraud investigator. And then you actually discover something, and then you get the higher ups in your job basically tell you to bury it. And then when you refuse to, they hire someone to discredit you, make you think, oh, you crazy. You were never a good investigator. But then it turns out years later, this could have been stopped. That you was telling the truth. Absolutely crazy, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on that situation. Let me know how you feel about it. How do you feel about them wanting to track down the fraud, waste, and abuse? No matter if you disagree with Donald Trump or not. Do you think it's a good thing for them to be searching out these people who are truly abusing the system?